Obviously, this past budget, I was the only member of the council to vote against the budget because I didn't believe the tax increase that was ultimately accepted was necessary at that time.
Well, I have to go along with you because I see, and I'm not going to get into specifics, but I see certain departments in this city hall, and I'm sure you do as well, in this city, that, come on, we don't need them. They're a waste of millions of dollars that could be put elsewhere.
Right. Well, I mean, and that's part of the process as us as policymakers for the city council. And we did this, and I appreciate, and as Geraldine was on the forefront of this, is taking a look from outside our government,
right,
to see whether or not what we're doing is correct. And we haven't gotten to that point as a council to go do that. We used to do those reviews, kind of outside reviews, performance reviews, whatever you want to call them, for somebody outside of the city government to take a look. Because you know, it's just nature in any institution, whether it's government or a corporation or a not-for-profit, for them to say everything is fine without somebody coming in. And it's even tougher for us, in all honesty, as elected officials, to say no. I mean, it's just not, you know, having to go out there, and depending on what happens, obviously, with the selection process for the at-large position, you know, I'm expanding the universe of people that I have to go ask to support me, and it's always easier to say yes than it is no. And that's part of your job as a member of the council and as an elected official, to try to figure out what your priorities are and balance are. So at the end of it, you know, our budget is good. There are factors out there that are beyond our control, whether it's additional state aid. We're going through a reassessment of our property, and as we were advised by our staff,
which will go down, hopefully.
Said for the first time in almost 30 years, the property values will go down. So that means, obviously, even if we have a constant tax rate, that our revenues are going to go down as a result.
Drop.
The good thing is, obviously, and this is the discussion that we had with this year's budget, is we have a substantial amount of unreserved funds. I mean, more, almost, we were told, is now up to 41%.
Wow.
Our goal is 25%, meaning that we have 25% of our budget in reserve in case something were to occur. Now we're twice as much as that right now. And you know, there is an argument about you know, where to use that money, if we're going to use it, how much should we use, and if I think that money is there for those occasions where you have situations like this to use and not have to go back and ask for more revenue from people who are hurting in the city, as I've heard around the city.
There's a lot of people hurting in the city.
And those funds will be reused for emergency things like excess weather, make a change. So it's a lot to be responsible for.
Yeah, and it's one thing. I will say this. You know, I've grown into the position. I think I mentioned this before. You know, I came in, and it was myself and Kevin Conroy were 6th and 7th in seniority. And here we are.
God, that's hilarious. I can barely remember Conroy.
And here we are, you know, less than 5 years later, and I'm 3rd in seniority on the council. So I understand that, you know, insisting the council and getting a position and learning from those who have been there longer for me. Because that's part of the process. I mean, we just, you know, as the county is transitioning.
Well, nobody else on the council wants this at-large seat, do they?
Obviously, I guess nobody else has stepped up to say that they want it, and I understand that. I mean, it's you know, in my discussion, it was a kind of a two-step process. The first one was to make the decision if I was going to run for the at-large position next year. And then the second one was the easier one, because the appointment process is pretty straightforward. I mean, it has its issues.
Hopefully.
Has its issues, but, you know, it's a lot easier to be appointed than have to run. So, but you have to make that decision that you're committed to making the race next year, and I think I've made that, and I've got the blessing of my wife and the family to do that, which was the most important thing. But I've been committed to public service, both in my professional life and obviously in my civic life.
And what is your role at the county? You work for the county?
I'm still working for the county council as one of their legislative officers. Obviously, that's going to be a little bit different now. We have 5 new members of the county council coming on. And like when I first came in with Doug Peters, who was kind of there were new members altogether, and now we kind of have a split between those who've been there for a term and those who are new. So,
in the past, Todd, there had been words expressed about perhaps a conflict because you do work legislative chores for the county council. Is this an issue anymore? Or
no longer an issue. I think the council resolved that probably about 3 years ago now.
City council.
City council did, and as well as the county government, because I had to go to both the city's ethics committee and the county's ethics committee to let them know that I had these positions. And the way we structured it is in that my responsibilities at the county level, I'm not to deal with any city of Bowie issues or any municipal issues for that matter either. Okay. And so there's enough work at the county to allow me to do some other stuff and be able to fulfill my role as a member of the city council. Yeah. And hopefully I've done that for the last 5 years. I think I've initiated some projects and some community involvement that I think I'd like to expand to the entire city as far as keeping people informed, giving them an opportunity to respond to us. I was one of the first council members to do individual town hall meetings for my district. The council ultimately accepted that and started doing them citywide in each of the districts. I have my colleagues have copied me as far as legislative email lists and producing brochures with telephone information. So even during the short time that I've been on the city council, I've proven that I'm committed to doing this. That's where my heart is. And so if I was successful in getting the appointment,
get your weekly mailing, yes.
If I am successful in getting the appointment, that's what I would seek.
You and Diane are the only ones that said anything out.
Right now, yeah, it's pretty much myself and Diane, although Geraldine tried to do it a few times. It's a little more difficult when you got a larger universe, and Dr. Trout has done it on occasion.
I've never seen anything from Trout.
So,
but this one issue of duplicated services with the county and with park and planning is the city spending money in the budget that literally duplicates some of the services with park planning and the county.
I wouldn't call it duplicative, but we do the same things, and I know we've always had, I wouldn't say a tension, but always an issue between what we do as a city, what park and planning does, and what the county does. And with the county, say for instance the police department, we have what there is called a tax differential, that when we as a city start undertaking responsibilities or services that the county had previously provided, there's supposed to be a balancing out in the taxes, meaning the county portion of the taxes come down.
Speaking of that, if I may interject, when are we going to get our own 911 system?
Well, I mean, we actually discussed this just recently.
Because I've heard some terrible complaints about Bowie people trying to get 911.
Well, one of the interesting things is one, we're looking at that, staff has looked at that, and as we're looking at this budget, this is part of the discussion that we need to be cautious about if we're adding new capital programs or new services. The potential problem with the new 911 system is it's costly to do. Because not only do you need, we have the physical structure when we have the new city hall, I think that's been planned for, but you need the equipment, and then you're going to need 24-hour work.
Well,
so right now
a lot of small towns do it.
No, there are some. I think the city of Greenbelt is probably the only other municipality in Prince George's County that does it at some cost to them.
Well, I'm talking national.
It definitely is done. It's not something new. But the issue is, at least the cost estimates that the city council has been presented with, it's anywhere between almost $1 million to operate it each year.
Per year.
Well,
it's worth it.
But once again, it's that balancing act.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've made a commitment to the police department. It's now over $6 million in our budget, going from zero in less than 5 years. And obviously, we've had to raise taxes in order to support that, because that's what the majority of the population wanted. So I'm not opposed to it. We just got to, as we were talking about, our budget for next year, start talking about what the impact is long term on our budget, and whether or not how we're going to pay for it. So that's one thing. The other interesting aspect of the county recently did a groundbreaking on the new 911 center over at the Melford Former Science and Technology Center, and the county has, along with the city and the rest of the municipalities in Prince George's County, have spent a lot of money on a new system to be able to communicate both for Homeland Security and for police and public safety purposes. So we actually toured the facility. It's state of the art. So it might be one of those situations where we want to see how that works first, because in all honesty, they were similar to us. They were working out of an old 40-year-old school as their communication center. So maybe that might be, in our evaluation, of whether or not we want to do this new service to.
Sure.
Well, on
to
that
add
note, Bert, wrap it up.
All righty. And, we could talk about this all day, and particularly this comment, and I'll wrap it on this, Todd. We appreciate you being here. The explanation of how the process works and the dates and so forth and how you fit into that has been very, very helpful.
Okay.
And you get our bill.
I appreciate that once again for the opportunity, and hopefully whether I am appointed or not, I'll still be able to serve as on the city council and continue to hopefully do the good work that I've started to do.
After the program, you give us your phone number for trash not picked up this week. Because
You know
you'll be
that.
at large if you win.
Okay, and on that we say good night. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll be back again next week. Thanks.